shellacked. I'm going to just say it. They got their ass whipped last night. Somebody got to say it. With accentuation and punctuation. They got beat down. The Philadelphia 76ers. They got embarrassed. They got annihilated by the Toronto Raptors, who were up 21 at the half after outscoring them by 20 in the second quarter. And Kawhi Leonard didn't even have that big of a game. He didn't need to. Pascal Siakam led them in scoring. They ran the Philadelphia 76ers out of the country. They ran them out of Canada. And now the Philadelphia 76ers come back for a pivotal Game 6. And I'm fully aware of some of their inhibitions, some of the things that have ailed them. Jimmy Butler's had no help. And the big story has been Joel Embiid. And please don't get me wrong. I meant what I said a couple of days ago when I brought up 9 hours. 9 hours. You got 9 hours before Game 4 where you text your coach and say, you may not be ready to play. Now, ultimately, he played in Game 4. But I can understand you texting your coach and say, I'm sick. I can understand you texting your coach saying, I need some help because I got to play this game. I can understand you texting your coach saying, man, do whatever the hell y'all got to do to get me right because I ain't right now. But to text 9 hours before a pivotal Game 4 that you could go up 3-1 in the Eastern Conference semifinal series and to text that coach 9 hours beforehand to say you might not play, that's very bad. Now, we can sit up there. Let me be the first to say this. I'm going to encourage everybody to flow with my man, Jimmy Butler. If Joel Embiid says he's sick, believe him. I'm not questioning whether he was sick or not. Nor am I questioning the back and the knee ailments he's been suffering from because I understand that's real. The man got drafted in 2014. He was drafted 3rd overall instead of 1st behind Andrew Wiggins and Jabari Parker. Why? Because of the foot injury coming out of Kansas. And that foot injury, disabled him to the point where he couldn't even play until the 2016 season. And then even when he came in to the 2016 season, only played 31 of the 82 games. And then the next year he played 64. And then last year he played 63. So he has been injury prone and he has been missing games. We know that Joel Embiid is not faking. And we respect that. But Game 2, ladies and gentlemen, you sick in Game 2, but you feeling good enough to drop 33 in Game 3. You scored 9 baskets. As my man Jalen Rose pointed out this morning on Get Up, he celebrated after 5 of those baskets, waving his fingers to the crowd, doing the airplane and gyrating all over the place, engaging in histrionics, trying to embarrass Gasol and everybody else. And then somehow, someway, after having the runs in Game 2, you show up in Game 3, and then now you sick again in Game 4. Well, what are you eating? How much sleep are you getting? What supplements are you putting in your body? What's going on with you that you feeling ill? Because remember, we didn't hear about the knee and the back in Games 2 and 4. That was some sickness. He had the runs in Game 2, and in Game 4 it was something else. Respiratory infection or whatever it is. These are multi-million-dollar athletes playing for billion-dollar conglomerates in a billion-dollar entity known as the NBA. And you trying to tell me that this kind of stuff, I can understand you being sick Game 2, 3, and 4, but how are you sick Game 2, feeling just fine Game 3, and then sick again Game 4? Something wrong with that picture. I don't know what, but something is. But having said all of that, let me tell you something right now. Joel Embiid being sick in Game 4 does not in any way gloss over what happened last night in Game 5 in Toronto, Canada. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to put this in perspective. The Toronto Raptors last night won by 36. They won by 36. Ladies and gentlemen, they were a plus 20 with Kawhi Leonard on the floor. They were a plus 35 with Siakam on the floor. They were a plus 31 with Kyle Lowry on the floor. They were a plus 27 with Serge Ibaka on the floor. And, of course, they were a plus on the floor with Danny Green and Marc Gasol. Ladies and gentlemen, that's a butt whipping. That's what that is. That's the Philadelphia 76ers not showing up. And I got news for you. I have been telling y'all throughout these playoffs, Sixers can't get beat down and bum rush like this, and the Sixers brass are just going to ignore it when it comes to Brett Brown. At some point, it's very difficult for me to have this discussion because I'm rooting for Brett Brown. I do not want him to get fired. I think that he's endured a lot as the coach of the Philadelphia 76ers when that bogus process was taking place. Okay? And I think as we look at him now and the job that he's done with the 76ers over the last couple of years, it's been good for the regular season, etc. But I told y'all before, he blew 3 playoff games last year against Boston, games 1, 2, and 3. Game 1, he admitted they weren't prepared. Game 2, you got a 20-point lead or so, and you blow it in the second quarter. Not a single timeout, not a single substitution, not a single post-play call for Joel Embiid. Nothing. Game 3, you got the shooter that is J.J. Redick playing point for you on an inbounds play, looking for him to distribute the basketball instead of catch and shoot the basketball. I've never seen a coach blow 3 playoff games in my life, but I saw that. But that's neither here nor there because he would vehemently dispute that, and he knows more basketball than me, fair enough. But this year, here we are. You got a 2-1 lead. You going up 3-1. You're in a position to go up 3-1 in this series. And Kawhi Leonard gives it to you, no doubt. Drops 39 and 14 in Game 4. Ladies and gentlemen, Pascal Siakam had 2 baskets and 9 points. Your second leading scorer for Toronto was Marc Gasol with 16 points. I've seen plenty of people that have scored 40-plus before and still lost. So what? Kawhi had 39 and 14. What that got to do with what y'all doing? Which brings me to players other than Joel Embiid. I've got to look at Tobias Harris, who didn't shoot well until last night, where he hit 50% of his shots. I got to look at Ben Simmons. No threat whatsoever offensively from the perimeter, which is why they got Jimmy Butler playing point and Ben Simmons hanging around on the baseline. I've got to look at those 2 components. I got to look at Joel Embiid just this year being a better post player than he was in the 3 previous seasons he played. And ultimately, that brings me back to Brett Brown asking the question, what about the development of these players? Because I've seen them developed in San Antonio. I've seen them developed in Golden State. I've seen them developed in Utah. I've seen them develop last year in Boston. I see Nick Nurse working with his crew in Toronto, even though pretty much Kawhi Leonard's passing, doing his thing. But Pascal Siakam is my most improved player. I got to give Nick Nurse and his staff some credit for that. My man Phil Handy, who used to be an assistant in Cleveland, is now an assistant in Toronto. I got to look at all of these things. And I got to say what's up with Brett Brown and the development of these players. Because the Sixers are going to be asking that question. Let Toronto come into Philadelphia tomorrow night and close the Sixers out in Game 6. I promise you Brett Brown ain't going to be the coach next season. You might be able to, I don't think so, but you might be able to survive. You push this to a Game 7, and it's a thriller in Game 7 of the conference semifinals. Fine. But you get beat up again in Philadelphia tomorrow night in Game 6, Brett Brown's he will not be the head coach for the Philadelphia 76ers next season. I promise you that. These brothers in Philadelphia ain't playing. Josh Harris ain't playing. Scott O'Neal ain't playing. Elton Brand and his staff, they ain't playing. You don't go out during the season and get Jimmy Butler and Tobias Harris to bow down to Kawhi Leonard and Pascal Siakam. Not when you got Embiid and Simmons and Tobias Harris and Jimmy Butler. Hell no. You don't do that. As great as Kawhi Leonard is. No. You're not getting away with that. So I just think those things are incredibly important to point out. Brett Brown's in trouble. And if the Sixers like him so much, and they believe in him so much, and they love their coach so much, show the Sixers organization by handling your business tomorrow night. And at least being a threat in Game 7. and you'll have a chance to keep your coach. You don't? I'm sorry, Brett Brown. I'm not wishing this on him at all, ladies and gentlemen. I like the man. I truly do. I think he's a class act. I think he's a good coach. But there's too many marks against him. And you got people in Philadelphia that's going to clamor for change. They're going to look right at Brett Brown. I promise you that. And I ain't even get into who you're going to keep in Jimmy Butler and Tobias Harris. Obviously, that would be Butler. But that depends on how much money he asks for and whether or not he wants to stay in Philadelphia. So it's a lot going on. And I ain't even getting to Golden State Houston yet. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. That was Straight Talk Wireless. Everything for less. Only at Walmart. By the way, right now, 1-800-FLOWERS will give you 24 multicolored roses plus a free vase for only $29.99. Now, that's an offer that Mom would approve of. To order 24 multicolored roses plus a free vase for only $29.99. And for details, go to 1-800-FLOWERS.com, click the radio icon, and enter code Stephen A. That's 1-800-FLOWERS.com, code Stephen A. That's with a PH, not a V. Hurry up. This fantastic offer ends tomorrow. Back with your calls and more in a minute. Plus a little Kobe and Kawhi debate that my man Max Kellerman sparked. Stick around. We'll listen to it right here with Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. This show and all of ESPN is streaming live on the ESPN app. Now with ESPN Plus, where you get more ESPN. Download the ESPN app today and take ESPN every